Testing, testing, testing. Sup peoples, and welcome back to another video. I can't tell you all how much it means to have hit 200 subscribers, and at the time of me filming this, I'm at like 239, I believe. If you're new here, I wanted to help catch you up to speed and also say thank you to subscribers who've been with me since the very beginning with a little Q&A today. There's a very high likelihood that you came to my channel through this video if you're a newer subscriber, and thank you so much. I've been thinking about having a series called What Writers Can Learn From Insert whatever TV show, movie, etc. For example, I was thinking I could explore what writers can learn about villains from She-Ra and the Princess of Power. I will of course continue making my usual content, which is more along the lines of 5 tips for dealing with writer's block, etc, etc. And I do want to keep trying to make vlogs, they're just time consuming. But I'm going to get more into my plans for my channel in this video, so I thought that we would break it down into sort of a couple different categories of Q&A questions. Before we get started though, in case you're totally new here and you've never watched any video except for my What Writers Can Learn from Gravity Falls, The Owl House, Amphibia, and Star vs. the Forces of Evil, I'm Ash, I'm 19, I'm an aspiring comic book writer and novelist, and this is my channel where I tell people, and you, everything that I have learned about writing. So let's get started with the questions. Alright, so the first section I figured we'd do personal, then we would go on to questions about my writing, then advice, and finally, the future of this channel and my plans for it. Okay, so first up, how's your handwriting? Oh gosh. I'll put some examples up on the screen. I hate my handwriting. It's a big part of the reason that I only type. I really just don't enjoy the process of writing by hand. It's sort of funny to be a writer who can't stand their own handwriting. I also hold the pencil weird. I hold it like it's a claw. I don't like my handwriting, and my handwriting doesn't like me. What's the favorite thing you like to do other than related to writing? I love stories, so I'd say that most of my favorite things are story related. I don't know if that counts as writing. I like watching TV, I like reading, I like role-playing games, but I'd sort of all relate these to my writing because a lot of times the stories that I role-play out, I end up writing later. Let me think. I love animals, that's not writing related. I ride horses. I have rabbits, which I take care of, and I have a dog. I love my bunnies. We actually bred rabbits at one point. So I have a lot of rabbits that I take care of. Before I decided to be a writer, I considered being a lepidopterist, which is somebody who studies caterpillars and butterflies and moths. I was really into that for a little while. I was convinced that I was a child, keep this in mind when I had this fantasy. I was convinced that I was going to go into the Amazon rainforest, discover a new kind of caterpillar, and that somehow this caterpillar would cure cancer. I was like 8. Okay, that's a lie. I was like 12, but just cut me some slack. I think that's it. I don't have many interests besides writing, YouTube, animals, clothes. That's pretty much all I've got. I'm a very single-minded person. I've always been that way. When I'm doing one thing, I sort of just forget about all other things. I'm happy with the one thing that I'm really into. What video are you proudest of? Ooh. I should probably say my biggest video, which is currently up to 1.9K views, which is mind-blowing to me. My videos usually max out at 200 if they do well, maximum if they do good. This one is still growing, and it's nearing 2,000 views now, and I'm so happy. Thank you so much for every like, for every comment, for every view, for every subscriber from that video. It really means the world to me. I'm so excited. And that's not the video I'm proudest of though. I'd have to say it's my How to Write Villains video. I really am happy with the What Writers Can Learn From Those Cartoons video, but I just love villains so much, and the villains video was the first video that I ever made that I felt like this is what I was trying to achieve, and I didn't have any problems with it. I felt like I was fairly concise, that I got across a good amount of information, and I feel like you should go check it out after you finish this one. We're at a slightly new angle because people had to pass through the doorway. Where was I? What video am I proudest of? So yes, you should definitely go check out the villains video. That was the first video that I ever did that I felt like lived up to its potential. And it did pretty well, but I definitely think that it could get more views. Yeah, if you know what I mean. I'll link it up above if you're interested, you know. Just feed the algorithm. I wouldn't be mad if you fed the algorithm. All right, that is the personal questions. You guys really aren't that interested in me. Now we're on to my writing, which is the largest portion of this entire sec. Oh no, the dog's barking. That's Teasley, if you were interested. All right. How old were you when you started writing? That depends on what you mean by writing. I've been writing little things for as long as I can remember. Before I could write, I would tell stories to my grandmother and she would write them down for me. And then once I could write, probably when I was like 7 or 8, I started writing my first novel. I only got like 3 chapters in max before I was like, I'm done with this. It was called Cave of the Creeps. I still intend to read Cave of the Creeps to you as soon as I find that old notebook. I feel like that would be a great like 500 subscribers video or something. And I actually got a comment about that. I was like, what should I do for my 100 subscriber video? And someone was like, read Cave of the Creeps. And I was like, that would be so cringeworthy. But I do not currently know where it is. I think it's somewhere in the attic. However, if I ever find Cave of the Creeps or the second novel that I wrote, Pain Eaters, I just watched The Matrix. It's just The Matrix. I will definitely read those to you. I would say that I started writing, though, when I was 16, which wasn't that long ago, but it feels like a lifetime because I've become such a better writer over those 3 years. I suppose doing something nonstop and thinking about it nonstop, it really has an effect on people. I will get into why I would say that I started writing when I was 16 with this next one. What inspired you to start writing? I've always loved stories, like I said. My dad would read to me even before I was old enough to remember the stories. When I was a little baby, like he'd just read to me until I fell asleep, and he'd read to me and my mom. And I think that the fact that he read to me every single night and every single day and in such formative years has really ingrained this love of books in me. And that eventually evolved into a love of television shows and movies and writing. While I've always been writing on and off and toyed with the idea of being a writer since I was very small, my connection and relationship with writing really started when I was 16. In the month of my 16th birthday, I read 2 really important books to my formative writing career dreams. The first was Karen Travis's Republic Commando novels. Now, if you don't know this, I am a huge Star Wars nerd. I'm definitely going to talk about Star Wars forever. I love Star Wars so much, especially the animated shows. And I was really obsessed with the Clone Wars, like what Star Wars animated fan wasn't. And I had just gotten into Legends. Now, if you're a Legends fan, don't ask me a bunch of questions in the comments because I only really read like this one book that I remember. I'm sorry, Legends wasn't really my thing. This was pretty much the only book that I really loved to pieces, book series. I've read a couple other Star Wars novels, but I don't really remember them that well. And it was mostly just because I felt like I should be reading a lot of Legends because all my friends were, because they're also Star Wars fans. And I slowly realized it's just like, I'm more into comic books right now than novels. So I read a lot of Star Wars comics if you want to ask me questions about Dr. Aphra. Oh, and if you're curious what comics I read, I have my top 10 comics playlist up above. I'll link that. But when I read these books, it was sort of like, I don't know what changed, because I'd read a lot of books that I loved, but I loved this series, and it clicked something in my brain. It was just like, this is exactly what I wanted to read. It's about Mandalorians and clone troopers. This is my jam. And some part of me was like, now I want to write one. So I started writing fan fiction, a Star Wars fan fiction, which I called Padawan. It was supposed to be the first of 5 books. 5! What was I thinking? 5 books, no biggie. And I think I wrote like 89 pages and decided that was my completed novel. And it is terrible. After I read Karen Travis's Republic Commando novel series. For my 16th birthday, I got the comic book Saga by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. If Republic Commandos made me want to write a fan fiction, Saga made me want to be a writer. And one of the amazing things was that I got this big blue hardcover of the first 18 issues. In the back of it, there was this old-fashioned letters column in which someone asked, how do you make a saga? So what was really neat about that was that it literally outlined the entire process of how to make a comic book for me. From conception of the idea to the script and the outline and the illustration. Now obviously I can't illustrate the way that Fiona Staples can, I can't illustrate at all, but outline of an entire script, an entire example of a script was in that book. And I was able to learn from Brian Vaughan's method and write a comic book. I think I wrote 12, 14 issues of this comic in like 2 months. I had just finished my little fan fiction. I was riding high on the confidence because I had not read it yet, and it was terrible. But I hadn't read it yet, so I was just like, I'm such a great writer. And then I read this book, and I was like, this makes me want to be a professional writer, not just a hobby writer. And then I wrote a comic book. And the comic book's terrible, but again, I'm not going to read that one to you because I intend to rewrite it because the ideas are solid. It's just, I did not have the skill level back then. Also, it may be better suited to a novel. I don't know. I'm going to write it eventually, and then you can read it. So basically, I wrote 12 to 14 issues of this comic book, and it was a life-changing experience, because I loved every second of it. Before, when I'd written, it was like, I'm writing and I'm sort of enjoying this, but I do it for like 30 minutes and I'm done. This was like for hours on end. Every day I just sat there and I wrote, and I wrote, and I wrote, and all I wanted to do was write, and all I talked about was writing, and all I thought about was writing, and it was amazing. So I really have Republic Commandos and Saga to thank for making me a writer, and especially Brian K. Vaughan for putting the script of issue 4 of Saga in the back of that blue book. I actually wrote a fan letter to Brian Vaughan, but I never sent it because it was too embarrassing. On to the next question. Now that I've talked for probably like 10 minutes about the last one. What is your motivation to write? I love writing. It's really that simple. I like writing my stories the most, but I also like just writing little articles for my friends in my newsletter. On to the next question. What projects are you working on right now? So I have a lot of ideas, which I've written down in a little book, and I am planning to hack through them for probably the rest of my life because there's so many in there. But I'm currently working on 2 things. The first is my comic book, Project Punk. I will link the playlist up above if you want more information because I actually vlog writing that one. And the second is Project Eros. These are not their official names, I just call them Project something. It's like a placeholder until I publish. Or in Project Eros's case, come up with an actual title. Project Eros is my NaNoWriMo novel. And I will get into more details on these projects because the next question is, what's the premise for your current project? So I know this is project singular, but I'll just tell you about both of them. So Project Punk is my comic. It's my pet project that I've been working on since I was 16, and it's finally about ready for publishing. I just need to find an artist to illustrate the interior. I have found a cover artist, or more, a cover artist found me. Thank you so much if you're watching this. I can't get into too many details because right off the bat, it's sort of like spoilery. There's a lot of twists and turns. A big part of that is like plot twists and surprises, and I really like using like the comic format to have big moments because you can have like the big splash page. It's set in a cyberpunk world where there's this corporation that controls pretty much the entire main city that the story is set in. And my story follows 3 law enforcement officers who work for this corporation, and the sort of mess that they end up getting into by being in the wrong place at the wrong time. You know, all sorts of fun stuff like bounty hunters and assassins and family friends and old lovers, people you almost married, you know, just lots of drama. It's very much a character-driven story. Even the plot is driven by certain characters doing things, so it's very much like a character-driven story, I'd like to think. And I'm really looking forward to eventually showing you all and publishing it. I just have to find someone to draw the thing first. So if you're an artist and you are looking for a gig, I might be your person. Oh yeah, before I move on to the next question, the second project, Project Eros. That's my NaNoWriMo novel. That one I don't need anyone to illustrate, which is cool for a change. Like I can just do most of it myself. I don't have to like wait on finding another teammate. Although I'm very excited to collaborate with an artist. I'm gonna be straight up front. Like the idea of doing that is amazing to me. I would love to collaborate with someone in that way, but it is nice to have something that's a little bit more like I can do it all myself, because I am waiting on finding an artist. Project Eros is something very much out of my comfort zone. It is a contemporary YA romance, which I write like science fiction comic books about like evil corporations and stuff like that. I don't write contemporary, and I don't write YA, and I don't write novels usually, but I'm really happy that I tried writing a novel again, because my last experience with it, my 60 days challenge, which I'll link that up above, it didn't really go well, and I didn't enjoy the process. But then when I tried it again this time for NaNoWriMo, I'm loving the process. And I have a video, I'm linking you to so many videos, I'm sorry. This wasn't supposed to be an ad for my channel, but it is sort of an ad for my channel. I'll link a playlist up above, or just a video up above, where I talk about why I think I enjoyed writing this novel when I didn't enjoy writing that novel. So the basic idea with Project Eros is pretty simple. Boy meets boy, and then shenanigans. My protagonist is sort of like an outgoing, like inwardly introverted and sort of shy character who ends up meeting a guy he thinks is really cute, and they're like seniors in high school. And it's that classic like high school sweetheart situation, except the other kid doesn't realize he exists. This is sounding so cliched, but it's honestly really fun to play with a storyline and a genre that's very pre-existing, because this isn't my world at all. The only thing that I've read in this world is Heartstopper, which I really enjoyed, both the comic and the show on Netflix. You know, I sort of wanted to try something that was a little bit more like lighthearted and fun and sweet, versus my sort of like, everything's terrible, rain beads on shattered glass in the corner, you know, like my like classic like, it's a cyberpunk dystopia, everybody. I don't know where the voice came from, but it's very fun to write the story and just sort of like explore a world that I don't live in and I don't write in. And I feel like it's going pretty well so far. We are now on to the next section. The next two sections are a lot smaller, so don't worry. This is advice. What would your advice be to a beginner writer? Just write. Write a lot, write all the time, think about writing, watch movies, watch TV shows, watch my videos. I mean, you don't have to, it's not a necessary thing, but like read, absorb the format of content that you want to create, and also absorb all the others, because you can learn from them. And practice, practice, practice. If you're daunted by trying to start with your own original story, fan fiction can be a wonderful way to start. I started with fan fiction. I started with original stories, but I was like 8. So the first thing that I really wrote was a fan fiction. And then I rewrote that fan fiction, and rewriting that fan fiction was the first time that I felt like, oh, this is actually good. So write, and also write. And then is the channel, okay? Why did you stop doing vlogs? They're time consuming, and I live in a house with 3 other people, and it's a very small house. It's really that simple. So while I would love to have more like day in my life vlogs, which is what I started with the channel, I've decided that that's not really going to be what I do. I have thought that if I ever end up having this channel become big enough that I could have a Patreon, I would probably put like day in my life vlogs on there, because I love making vlogs, and that would be something that I didn't have to like, you know, if I had a Patreon and my YouTube was a full-time career, then I wouldn't have work, so I could devote more time to vlogging, and it wouldn't matter that it was time consuming. This would be my job, which is my end goal. I would love to be a full-time YouTuber, which is why your support means so much to me. But, you know, if you want more vlogs, then subscribe so that I can eventually have a Patreon. And when it comes to writing vlogs, I do still intend to vlog the process writing and publishing Project Punk. And I thought that this would be a fitting thing to end on. It was a question submitted by myself because I wanted to talk about it. What are your plans for the channel in the future? This is basically just me being like, in the end of the video, I'm going to talk about my plans for the channel in the future. So I have a couple plans. A lot of plans. So many plans. Initially, when I started the channel, I was posting every like Wednesday and Sunday or something along those lines. That's just not realistic for me anymore. So I'm gonna have 1 video a week from now until forever, which is coming out every Wednesday. I intend to rebrand a little bit. Initially, I tried to stick to a really like strict branding when it came to my channel, and then I recently changed that branding over to like green and blue, and I was gonna try and stick really strictly to that. But I sort of reached a point where I was like, why am I doing this? I don't feel like it actually makes a difference. I'm just gonna make videos and have fun doing whatever covers or colors or whatever I want to do. So that's my new plan. So I'm gonna probably rebrand, and then I also intend to continue coming out with videos once a week. I want to continue with my Project Punk vlogs once I get back to writing that. I want to start the new series, which is going to be what you can learn from blank. I want to keep growing my Instagram. Oh, I'll put that up on the screen somewhere. That's not this channel, but I view them as very connected because I want them to sort of be like feed into each other. Well, I think that that's all the questions, and thank you so much if you submitted a question, and if you didn't submit a question, you should definitely submit a question to the next one. I ask in my stories over on Instagram usually, and because that's where I get most of my replies, but I try to also ask in the comments on YouTube, like in the community tab. Thank you for watching. Thank you if you're already subscribed, and if you somehow just stumbled upon this video despite not being subscribed, subscribe! You know, we could be celebrating 300 subscribers in a couple weeks if you help me along. That would be so amazing. I plan to have a little Q&A like this probably like every 100 subscribers, and then when we hit a big milestone, I'll have like a bigger video. Like when we hit 500 subscribers, I want to do something like extra fun. But when you hit like 300 subscribers, I'll probably have another Q&A where you can ask me anything that you like. And I will see you in the next video. If you have a question that you'd like answered in a future Q&A, comment down below and I will add it to the list. Thanks for watching. I need an outro slogan. I really need an outro slogan.